Hello there. Welcome back to the Blue Heinz garage. Made a little more progress again in another, I think it's been about a week. This stuff all finally showed up. I had the hose, but all the rest of the stuff wasn't available locally. So I got these things for coming out of the water pump, coming out of the manifold, the heater hose barbs, the heater, yeah. And these, we're going with tower style hose clamps to kind of keep the period look. All from Classic Industries. That stuff. No, the clamps and the lower radiator hose, because now this radiator is moved forward from where it was initially. You see it down there? Fits perfect. Didn't have to cut it or anything. Anyway, lower radiator. The only thing is it's awful close to that alternator belt. You can see there it's really close to the alternator belt. I might figure something out to put a little shield on the front of that hose so it can't chafe it if the belt's tight, but if the belt gets loose. And got a few more sheet metal pieces on. You see the little grill pan, whatever you want to call that, is installed there. I can't go too much further because places like that right there, the fender's got to get sandwiched in there. So I can't go too much further than this without having to take a bunch of stuff apart. Got some wiring, more wiring installed. This is all the stuff comes out of the passenger compartment and works its way up to the front for headlights, running lights, horns. You see the horn there? These are new horns. This is not the old horns I think used to go in here. And we're not putting them in there because we don't want to see them in there. So I bought these others online. There's a pair. They each have a different note, so they come real close to what the factory horn used to sound like. And the wiring that you see in there now is temporary, just so I could test them. Make sure that the horn button works and the horns themselves work, and the relay, all the wiring is correct, and it proved out it worked. Also doing this got a little damaged. Wrench got dropped on one corner of it, I think right about here, and we touched that up and put it outside, and unfortunately it seemed like having it outside, the paint was drying too quick. It was drying before it was able to flow smooth. So it was leaving a light orange peely effect. Let it dry for a few days, sanded it smooth, and it's ready to go again. Unfortunately, right now with all this unusual stuff going on, Rust-Oleum engine enamel is a rare product. Home Depot usually has a whole shelf full of it. I mean, probably 8 feet wide, floor to 7-8 feet tall, covered in Rust-Oleum paints. Went there Monday and the shelf was damn near empty. Looked around online for where I could buy it locally, and the local hardware store, also Ace Hardware, also sells Rust-Oleum. Didn't have engine enamel, or not that color. Kelly Moore Paints, according to the website, sells Rust-Oleum paint, barbecue, chimney, primer, wood, metal, not automotive related. So here we are back to Amazon and waiting a week. It's coming, won't be here till June 6th. There's some in that can, but I don't think there's enough to do what I need to do, and I don't want to be one coat short of finish, then I got to sand it again before I put the final coat on. You know how this stuff works. If you put what you need on it within 24 hours, after you sand it and prepare it, everything's cool. If it over 24 hours, then you got to sand it all over again. So I spent quite a bit of time sanding it smooth, sanding all the orange peel out of it. Don't want to do that twice. So anyway, here we are. Today what I'm doing, like I said, I got those tower clamps. I'm going to put them on the hoses. Probably get those hose barbs set up in the manifold and the water pump. See if I can keep from splitting the boss on the water pump. You know how the pipe thread's tapered. If you're not careful, you split those. Really easy. That's it. You know, we're going to do this petcock. We rearranged that a little bit too. I'm doing just a regular ball valve on that. And when we moved the radiator, I redid the hole where the drain exits the pan. So you see the pipe go. What was happening there is that fitting in the bottom of the radiator is not square with the bottom of the radiator, so it doesn't go through the hole in the middle. I don't think I'm going to mess with it. I could pry on it, but I'm afraid I'm going to break it loose, because that stuff is all soldered. It's a brass tank and a brass boss that's soldered into the tank, and it's not silver soldered, it's just soldered, soft soldered, so I don't think I should pry on it. Probably put a grommet in there too, in the middle. But anyway, so for today what I'm going to do is just some little stuff. I'm going to put those hose barbs in, put the hose clamps on the big hoses, and then go from there. I'm not sure where I'll go from there. I can't paint. I can't do the rest of that stuff. Okay, more to come. Bye. There's a couple more hours, believe it or not. Actually, probably about 3 hours. With not a lot of progress for that amount of time. You see the upper and lower radiator hose has clamps on it. You can't see the top one, but it has clamps on them now. There's one on the bottom. There's another one on the bottom. You see how close the belt is to the hose? Let's see if I can. The belt's probably 1/4 of an inch, almost. I don't think it's quite 1/4 away from the hose, down at the bottom there. Enough to clear, I think. And these, the fittings, the hose barbs for the heater hoses. There's one. There's the other. Actually, this is the only one I did today. And to do that, I had to take the fuel line off, and I had to loosen the front rocker arm for that thing to spin. And I think we're still not done. I think to make this look nice, we're going to have to modify that bracket, because you see the hose is coming out right here, and it wants to accidentally hit a button. Sorry. The hose is going to come out of here, and it wants to go down, to go under the bracket here, the alternator, to get over to the side panel, right where that bracket's in the way. That the adjustment for the alternator. You remember on these things from the factory, the generator, I think, was over there. On the end of the intake, the exhaust manifold. We made our own bracket and put it over here because we had a lot of stuff on the other side already. So I think we're going to probably end up modifying that adjustment bracket somewhat so the hose can go down there, right here somewhere, right where this thing's in the way. Because right now it'll go around there, but it's starting to, the bend is getting kind of sharp and the hose is starting to flatten out. I don't like it. So I'll talk to my son. He's kind of, I'll run it by him and see what he wants, what he thinks. And we'll go for, he's the one that's going to weld it. If I fabricate something, he's going to weld it. So, you know, he's involved in the decision. Anyway, that's what we got done today. And then I just did a little better covering here on the top tank on the radiator, because that paper that was there was one layer and it was all broken and everything else. So I doubled it up and taped it on there, made it a nicer protective cover. Anyway, all for now. See you later. Thanks. Bye. Okay, well, hello. Back at the Blue Heinz garage. Just going to show you today. Result of my last efforts that I would call a dismal failure. This fitting and this fitting are going to go away. It took me better part of an afternoon to get those two fittings in there because you got to remove a bunch of stuff in order to attach them. And then once the bottom one is okay, the straight one down there is okay. But I didn't like the way it mounted. The hex on it is bigger than the fittings that they sell for that application. That's just a fitting that has a hose barb with 1/2-inch pipe thread with a 3/4-inch hose barb. That's all that is. It has it's not intended necessarily to go on a cart, to be automotive. And it's a nice fitting, and the price was great. But the fitting that belongs there has a little plain shoulder beyond the pipe thread so that the hex doesn't hit the casting on the water pump. Well, this one doesn't do that. This one's just got a regular pipe thread. And the length of the pipe thread to the hex, where it's at right now is where that hex starts to conflict with the casting on the pump. And it might seal and it might not. So I'm going to remove it and put the correct fitting on there. And the 90 here on the top, this one, had a hard time with that too, because not only have to remove the fuel line and loosen that front rocker arm so the thing can spin. But once I got it there, if getting it to that point, I thought I was going to break the casting on the manifold because it got tight when it was pointing kind of straight up. And it was really tenuous turning it the rest of the way. Even where it's facing, you see it kind of runs right into that bracket that tensions the belt on the alternator. So it's bad. It's not good. So I ordered a different fitting that I'm going to use there that is a compression. It's a 90 1/2-inch pipe thread with a compression nut on the hose where the hose would be. And what I'm going to do, the idea behind that is my son sourced these. These are refrigeration fittings because the refrigerator, like this is a street 90. The pipe size for these refrigeration uses, this size, this is a street 90, so that's the same size as the copper pipe, and it's 3/4 of an inch. It's the right size for the hose and the right size for all of the heater hose barbs and the hose barb that goes on the water pump. That also is set up, is designed for a 3/4-inch hose. So these fittings and the 3/4-inch copper pipe is OD on the pipe as well. 3/4 inch, that'll work perfect. So anyway, what I did is I bought an adapter, like I said, that will screw in the manifold with a 1/2-inch pipe thread, and then it has a compression nut on it that will accept that 3/4-inch OD from the copper. And then I have some other ideas how I'm going to make it look. I don't want it to look like copper. And the fitting that I bought, the only way they sell it is brass. I don't want to see brass either. So I have some ideas what I'm going to do with that. We'll see how that works. The other thing is I got my paint finally showed up, so I got a coat of paint on this now. So I just did that about an hour ago probably. So once that's dry, that's ready to go back on. Once we finish, screwing 90s on the intake manifold where that's right in the way. But anyway, that's done. So we're making some progress. But those two fittings, those two hose barbs, I'm going to remove right now. Take a bunch of stuff apart. Take the fuel line off again. Loosen that front rocker arm. And what else? That bracket that tensions the alternator has to come off. Got to be real careful not to make any chips on the orange paint with the wrenches. Fun, fun, fun. But anyway, eventually we'll get it, and I'll show you when I'm putting it back. So here we go. I mean, this is hot rodding in your home garage. You do some things once, and you do other things 3 times. But you know, it's all the fun part, and it's a learning process along the way. So I'll show you more when I've got something more to show you. Thanks for watching. Hello there, everybody. Here we are again. It's Saturday. I don't remember what the date is. 12th, 13th, June. And we're here. It looks like we're ready for an operation. This kind of reminds me of the operating room. Anyway, you see we got everything all covered up to paint that one last little piece there because we want it to kind of go away. We're going to paint it with black radiator paint. Which required all this. You know, this is what happens when you pay attention to all these little details. So here we go. We're going to make that piece disappear. Bye. Well, now, I think that'll do it. There's your piece. It's kind of shiny because I just finished putting the second coat on it. And I think that's all I'm going to do. I think that'll work. I think that'll work. Yeah. I was here earlier, obviously, and made this little pipe jumper to go between the 2 heater ports, the valve and the actual heater core, rather than have a big crescent-shaped piece of hose hanging out there. We're going to use that, and then painted that as well to kind of make that blend with the motor. So making some progress on this, slow but and tedious, but sure right now. Okay, well, let's go in the big door today. Today is the 14th, I believe. Sunday, June 14th. Okay, so Scott was here again today. Made nice little progress today. We got the heater hoses run. You see, that was the configuration we ended up with. I had one of those fittings, and I bought the other fitting. Remember, it was screwed in there before. I had the... Anyway, we ended up with this combination because we thought it looked better. Didn't need to be... I was going to blue it, use gun bluing to make it black. And we eliminated that idea. And anyway, so the 2 hoses now are run. You can see them traveling there, and then they kind of go away for a while. And one ends up coming up under the heater valve over there. The other one goes directly into the heater core right there. So, kind of pleased. I think that looks good. Better than factory. Okay. Got the fuel line back on because you remember that was off. The rocker arm cover is back on because that was off for refinishing and some other stuff. Got the one lifter adjusted that I had to loosen to screw that fitting on the first time. So we're there now. Discovered a few new problems, which always seems to happen when you do any work. You fix one thing and you find 1 or 2 or more other things that need attention that you didn't know about. So we have 2 other issues right now to deal with. But this is about ready to put some coolant in it, and once we're there, we're going to fire it up. First time fired up in the car. So wish us luck. And we will be in touch. We'll be talking to you later. Please comment, like if you're so inclined, and we'll send you more when we have more. Stay safe. Bye.